Welcome to the Guidelines Podcast. The following is a bonus episode from when I was recently interviewed on the Brendan Roberts Instagram channel. During the interview, I spoke about sharing your work and building community, and of course, UX. I've linked to his channel in the show notes, so check it out. But otherwise, enjoy hearing me on the other side of the interview. Enjoy.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another fantastic Thursday evening and another live interview. I am extremely excited for tonight's live interview, especially because this person that I'm interviewing, Jonathan Copeland, is an extremely dear friend of mine. And yeah, it's probably one of the interviews that I've been looking forward to the most. So I'm going to wait for him to hop on eventually, and then we'll get this underway.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, and you?
I saw that you were talking about getting some new AirPods. I also jumped on that live. So this is
you got the
days.
pros.
Yeah.
You tilted and you got the pros.
Yeah.
So these aren't mine. I'm hijacking Tian's ones for the evening. He's not here, so he doesn't know.
They're really nice. I'm enjoying them a lot.
How you doing,
It's cool to be on the show, bro. Yeah, it's cool to be on the show. I love what you're doing here. And it's a great privilege to be on here talking with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, dude. Like, honestly, what would this have ever been if I'd never had you on here ever?
Yeah, Brendan is one of my very, very good friends. So I'm very invested in you. So it's very cool that I get to be talking with you now. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure, dude. So I see it's 12:30, so I don't want to keep you too long because you've had a long day already, which you can talk a little bit about just now. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy evening to be on here with me. It's an absolute honor and a privilege as a friend to have you on here. So thank you so much.
Totally. Cool. My absolute pleasure.
So let's kick this underway. So both you and I, we've had this discussion before, obviously. So we'll try and avoid, being like, oh, we talked about that last time. But I obviously know a lot about you. You and I had the privilege of living together for a while. So for those that don't know you, could you just give a little bit about your background, what you've been doing, and sort of what you're busy doing now, the space you're in now?
Cool. Yeah. My name is Jonathan Copeland, and I live in Pretoria, South Africa. I work as a user experience designer at a consulting firm in Pretoria called Zandre Design. We also just bought some office space in Boston. So we are a up-and-coming global design firm. I also host the Guidelines Podcast, which is a podcast about user-centered design within South Africa. And it's basically a platform that I use to interview people who are a lot smarter than me and how I get to learn from them within my field. And I'm also the host of UX Joburg. So UX Joburg is the longest running UX meetup in South Africa. And every month we interview masters from around the world. We've recently interviewed Darren Hood. He's been in the industry for over 30 years. And we've had Jaco van den Heever, who's the CEO of Zandre Design and also the organizer for UX Joburg. And he has led design teams in South Africa and spoken internationally. We have actually an event coming up in 2 weeks' time with Tom Cotterill. We're going to be speaking about how designers within South Africa can access the international design scene now that COVID has made us a whole lot more connected. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I love my job, and
So you studied at Tux, right?
Yeah, I studied at University of Pretoria. I studied a degree called BIS Multimedia. So it's a degree that combines a number of different degrees. I'd say it's mostly computer science. I'd say 80% of our focus was spent focusing on computer science modules. We had a lot of the same modules that the computer science the students did. And that's like the full gamut of programming. So we would do I don't know if any of your listeners program, but there'd be front end. So like it's making how things look when you interact with it, but also back end. So ensuring how data is stored in an application so we did a whole bunch of different languages, and Like there's like over 14 different languages. And we also did a bit of design and game design and that kind of thing. But yeah, 10th degree and finished it last year.
Yeah. So, well, I'm not even in it, but I highly recommend that if anyone is interested in UX or design or anything like that, or you're thinking of getting into that space, go and listen to Jonathan's podcasts. They are all on your Instagram account. So, and I mean,
Yeah, so
even I enjoy listening to
if you go
them.
to my
So,
Instagram, you can actually see a link to my personal website, and then from there you can get a link to the podcast. Sorry for interrupting you, Bendy.
no, no, no. I'm looking at it. It's right over the top of the phone. So I'm looking
Cool.
at it over
Okay.
here. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Cool.
so, but just as a recommendation to everyone, if that is something you're into, then that's what we're talking about tonight. So if you don't understand what
Yeah.
UX is and you want to know a little bit more about it, go and give Johnny a follow and go and listen to some of his stuff there.
Awesome.
So, Jonathan, let's talk a little bit about podcasting and sort of interviews and stuff, because that is obviously what both of you and I are into at this time, other than our primary work. So what is it that got you into podcasting?
Okay. So one of the biggest parts about any industry, but I'm going to focus on my industry, UX, is being able to communicate your ideas effectively. No matter what industry you're in, you have a problem or you have a service that you are offering people, and you need to be able to communicate that clearly and efficiently. Now, public speaking is not easy. Learning how to communicate succinctly is not easy. It's far easier to waffle. And so I realized two things. One, I needed to improve my public speaking skills so that I could better communicate with stakeholders whenever I was working on projects. Okay, so I realized that about myself. And I also realized that I wanted to meet people and learn from people within my industry, within UX. And it's difficult to just message someone on LinkedIn or Twitter and set up a conversation with them. But if you have a podcast, you have a structure in which you can actually have a conversation with someone. And you also have to package it in a way that that is easy to understand and adds value to the listener. So you have to really think about the questions you're asking. So you have to prepare for it. So it was a tool for me to upskill myself in public speaking, to meet people within the industry and learn from them publicly. That's the biggest thing. I'd say, yeah, those two things.
I think it's interesting because both you and I are in the space, but just between the two of us, we're opposite ends of the scale. You went into podcasting specifically within your industry and your work environment. I'm not. I mean, I'm a financial advisor, but I'm interviewing you about podcasting and I'm interviewing other people about other stuff. So I think it's important for people to realize that there's no one size fits all, or there is no like magic formula to fit to.
100%. I think the biggest thing is learning how to communicate well. And the skills that you will learn over the course of your podcast with interviewing people on the topics that are important to you will make sense in your career. And you'll have your own little audience. And I'll have my own little audience. We'll all have our own people that fit what we're sharing. So, yeah.
And also it's important to note that there are different ways of doing it, which we will talk about. But I mean, you don't necessarily do live interviews like this.
No, I couldn't do that, man. That's a whole different ball game. I have to edit out my ums and my ahs and my dumb questions. And
there's no taking what's said here is done and dusted. There's no
taking it's on the internet. No, you're braver than me, man.
Dude, so let's have a look at like talking about like your experience and stuff like that. So before we sort of go into the practical side of stuff, I know there's some questions that you sent me which I actually think are quite valuable. So I'm going to fire away with those now and we can just sort of talk about them for a bit. So the first one that I have here is there a point where you can earn the right to share your knowledge and experience? So what is your thoughts around that?
Okay, I want to reference a book that has been hugely influential in what's caused me to start sharing online. And it's a book called Show Your Work by Kleon. This is an incredible book. It's the second book after another book called Steal Like an Artist. But essentially what this book is about is it's sort of making the argument for sharing what you're working on and to invite people into your process. And I was a bit iffy about sharing my stuff. I thought, I don't want to make it about me. I don't want to become arrogant. I don't want to, like, all of these lists of things. But there's a section in the book, and it's really helpful, where it says, you can't find your voice if you don't use it. And that's, a lot of people say, no, they want to go and find themselves. They want to go away to go and do that and remove themselves from society to find who they are and discover themselves. And it's like, that's not how it happens. You find yourself by pushing yourself into situations where you have to grow. And so if you are waiting to become a professional within your field before you earn the right to share, I don't think that that's helpful. The best way to get started, the best way to get started on the path to sharing your work is to think about what you want to learn and make a commitment to learning it in front of others. You don't have to be a professional and like only then earn the right to share your work. Actually, you can, along the way, whilst you're an amateur, you can invite people into your amateurness, into your suckingness. And that's cool. And that's a story that people want to buy into. It's like the David and Goliath story. Like David didn't stand a chance against Goliath, but he won in the end. So it's like they're rooting for the little man. I think it's so good to invite people into your process, even though you feel like maybe you haven't earned it. That's how I felt.
Yeah. I think the only requirement I would add to that is that even though you don't know what you're doing, essentially when you start, is to at least give your audience the respect they deserve to actually do your homework. So if there's a topic
totally.
At least know what you are, like, even if you don't specifically know how you're going to get there or what you're going to do, at least know about it. That's like 100%. Rule number one. Like, I won't do an interview with anyone unless I know what I'm talking about. I don't need to be a professional at it, but I would have at least read their book or did, the homework I needed to do.
100%. I completely agree with that. So if someone is thinking of starting a podcast, I would say, like, go into it if you are committed to following through on what you're doing, not just kind of like doing it one day and not the next. Like, I think you should think about this as, would I be willing to do this for the next 5 years? And would I be willing to have conversations for the next 5 years about this? And if it's not the case, that this is not for you. If it is the case, then cool. Maybe in a year's time, your stuff will start to be really good. And this stuff takes time. But I think it's important to not get perfection paralysis and think, oh no, I can't do it. I'm not worthy. Rather just start and you will become that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think even if you have a look at some of the big guys that, we all know nowadays, I was very shocked the other day. I walked into my supervisor's office and I saw a collection of books in his cabinet, and I saw the name and I recognized it, and I was like, that can't be true. So it was Tony Robbins' first set of
I love Tony Robbins. Man, I love that guy.
Exactly. Now we all see his like Netflix thing and we see what he does now. Those books were like 20 years old.
Yeah, dude. He has tape collections.
Exactly. I was like, what? Now we all see him and we think, oh, okay, that's now. Like that was, he started like that and he became that like overnight. No ways. Like even Marquez Brown, like go look at his first videos that he did. I was like, hectic.
Yeah. No,
it's not really close to what they do now.
Hopefully we'll be able to look back at our podcast in 10 years time
and say, the thing. Exactly. Yeah. It's okay to suck now. It's okay to start and to be rubbish from time to time.
Yeah. No, it's about being in things for the long haul. It's not about it's about commitment. I think any skill, I think in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, he talks about the 10,000 hour rule. And it's like, actually, like in order to get mastery over something, it takes time. And I think with a lot of the way that the internet is geared these days, is geared to instant gratification and quick success. And it's like, no, like you want to build a firm foundation over a long time and then become successful that way. It's not going to, but you also have to take the risk to try. So yeah, I think that if someone's sitting there wanting to start a podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever platform or TikTok video or whatever, like do it. Like do it. Don't wait until you're ready.
Yeah. So off the back of that, we're talking about foundations and we're talking about the journey and the process. So what should people be sharing? What should we be sharing?
Okay, so I think that what I've seen within my field, and I think that a lot of industries will face this as well, people will be unsure about sharing their trade secrets because people will feel that if people know, then they'll steal my job. So if, like, say, for example, if I share my secret design techniques, I'm going to speak about the context of design because that's what I know about. So people will think, okay, like if I share my process, if I share the way that we work at $1 Design, then what's to stop like some like high school kid to adopt our processes and steal our work? And like it's a backwards way of thinking about it. Like teaching doesn't mean instant competition. Just because you know the master's technique doesn't mean that someone else is going to be able to emulate it right away. The stuff does take time, as we were just saying. So I think like teach what you know. And if you can see that there's a side of yourself where there's almost a fear coming in about being like unsure, like if I share this, maybe people are going to steal my work or steal my brand or steal my opportunities or like take something away from me. Like it's not the truth. A rising tide lifts all boats. And I think it's rather important to be generous with your knowledge. And the more people, like say, for example, within UX, like Sandola has we're very standards based and we approach our work in a very methodical way. And we approach UX with excellence. And we have a process for how we do everything. And by teaching people that's not stealing away from us, that's lifting the standard for usability within South Africa. So
yeah, but it's cool, like the way that you talk about it, because I think a lot of people forget that nowadays, if you want to do something, you can go onto YouTube and you can just type it in and you'll get 1,000 responses on how to do whatever X talent it is that you want to, do. But no one can ever truly emulate your creativity. And that's what distinguishes you from anyone else.
No, 100%, bro. No, that's completely true.
So we're sharing, we're doing this now, we're doing this process and this journey. But at what point or how do we not become or turn into spam, human spam?
Okay. So I think the world is full of people who don't want to pay their dues. They want to get their piece right there and right now. They don't want to listen to your ideas. They want to tell you theirs. They don't want to listen to podcasts, but they want to thrust flyers into your face, screaming at you to listen to theirs. And I think that there's a lot of people who want to get success without giving back to the community and without going through that slogging process. So we don't want to turn into human spam that just makes a big deal about us and points towards us and points to what we're doing. I think promotion is important. I think that doing the work with excellence is important. All of these things. But what we don't want to do is sort of build our own little empires, become dragons that hoard money and that hoard knowledge and that hoard connections. All of these things. We don't want to become like that. Okay. So yeah, I think my biggest insight on this is like you don't want to become human spam and make it all about you and try to get there without doing any of the hard work to get there and just sharing stuff that's about you. I think if you have a platform and you're fortunate enough to have a platform to be interviewing people or like making music or doing designs, like I think it's so important to be bringing up people underneath you and to be also pointing towards others. So like if you're having someone on your show pointing towards them, I can actually
Yeah.
just see that a mate of mine, Zandre, just joined. This guy's amazing. Actually, going into this, like Zandre, we just had him on my podcast last week, and he's just moved to London to go and work as a designer there at a startup. And he's at the same time while he's doing design, he's also studying mathematics so that he can focus on data science. Now that's so flipping cool. Not only is he doing his job incredibly hard, and he's done it so well that he can get a job at a really successful startup, but now he's expanding his skill set further. And he took the time out of his busy schedule to come to my podcast and help me out. So yeah, I think like it's so important to build up a community around you and not just make it about yourself, because you're going to end up alone. And it's not about money either. I think that wealth is important, and it's like a really important part of life. And I think I really don't agree with this thing of saying, oh, you shouldn't sell out. I think you should sell out. I think you should like do the absolute best that you can to get your work out there and promote your work. But like, it's not about building a little empire for yourself to make yourself look good, because that's not going to last. Like, build an empire with the people around you, build people up. That's how you're going to build a successful anything, whether it's a company or a podcast or anything.
Dude, it's like you just said the same thing that every other single, like, I kid you not, guys, you can take me up on this. Go and watch all my videos from now until the first one, which I think is 13 videos. Every single person has talked about the importance of community and building things together.
Yeah, it's not about you just making. Yeah, it's not about making yourself look good. That might work for a while. Like it might work for like your 20s, and you'll be cool then. But like, you don't see many people in there. Like, it doesn't age well. Like, you look at someone in their 50s who's doing that, you don't think, oh, cool. It might be cool when you see a rapper in his 20s doing it. You think, oh, wow, like, this guy's amazing. He doesn't care. It's like, doesn't age well, man. Doesn't look good in your 60s and 70s. So I don't want to do I don't want to do that now. I want to make good decisions now.
No, it's so true, dude. It's so true. So, okay, let's move a little bit away from the sort of very serious stuff. And I think a lot of people
Cool.
are going to be like, okay, cool, this is all great and everything. Let's build a community, but how do we do that? So, what has been your practical experience so far with regards to interviews and podcasting, and what's some of the sort of like small tips and tricks? Because I know I've even learned from you. So,
Yeah, I think I was actually about to say, like, I've learned from you. I think I realized within myself that I was nervous about asking people. So I was asking people
yeah,
within my immediate context, and I was like, it's weird. Like, I think one of the biggest things I've learned since entering the business world, you think that any personal inadequacies, you're going to leave them at the door, and you're just going to be
yeah,
judged, and your skill is going to be the only thing that determines your success. But actually, I realized, like, like, there was a side of me that was like, I was nervous to ask people who I perceived as being like out of my league or whatever. I don't know, whatever nonsense it is. Like, you just realize it's like sitting in you. And so like I think actually it was a conversation with you. I was like, actually no, like, I need to start asking people that like I'm really inspired by. And like, not to say that the people that I had on my podcast before didn't inspire me. Like, I've had amazing people, but they're people that I knew and that I had conversations with. Like, it
yeah,
wasn't people that I had to like cold call out of the blue and ask to be on my podcast. So I started to reach out a bit more in that area, and it's been really fruitful. So I think I'd say, like, reach out to people whose work you genuinely admire. Like,
yeah,
don't just go after someone who has lots of followers. Go after, like, remember, because we're in this for the long haul, and followers
yeah,
won't last forever. So like, go after stuff that you really love and find people. Like, oh my goodness, literally an hour ago, I had an interview. Well, half an hour before this call, I interviewed Darren Hood. Man, this guy's amazing. Go and check out Darren Hood on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Check out the World of UX podcast. Hashtag UX Uncensored. All of the stuff. Like, this guy is amazing. He's been leading in the UX industry for over 30 years. And this guy's passionate. He loves his work.
Mm.
So like, I want to be around people like that. And I want to ask people like that to be on my show. So yeah, I think just find people who are doing work that you genuinely admire. Like I was speaking about Zandre. Zandre wrote this incredible article on Medium where I think one of the most important things in design is being able to explain complex things in a simple way. And this is what Zandre did on this article. I've forgotten the name of the article now, but you can Google Zandre Coetzer, and you'll be able to find it there. But it was on about basically how you can best show the data, best make decisions on how you're going to make designs in your product. So he was talking about like internal metrics and external metrics and how you're going to decide what is the next thing you're going to be working on in your application. So you don't want to just design things for the sake of designing things. You want to be very strategic and fix the right problems. And that's what he was talking about. And he'd explained it in the most incredible way. Therefore, it was wonderful to have him on the podcast to just be able to chat with him. I've had my boss, Jaco. My goodness, I have the coolest boss in the world. Jaco van den Heever. Go and check him out. Check him out on LinkedIn. Check him out on Instagram, on Twitter. Like, I am the luckiest guy in the world. Yeah. And I've had him on my podcast twice, where he's like given masterclasses on the fundamentals of user experience design. So just find people who you admire and who are doing great work, and just go and see what they're doing. And you can't, like, this stuff isn't artificial, so you can't like just go and find like you can't manufacture this. You have to find stuff that you love and find people who you respect, and like just take the risk and ask them onto your show, that kind of thing.
I think it's also a lot of people people need to remember that there are varying levels at which you will be comfortable asking people to do an interview or a podcast.
That's true.
So for someone like me, obviously I'm a little bit, in terms of asking people, I'm not as, like, you and I had the conversation, and where I was like, I don't care for asking. I'll ask anyone and everyone to be on it. Some people won't necessarily be that upfront with it. So I think for people like that, you need to kind of get over that fear. So identify one or two impossible to get people, like Bill Gates or Elon Musk, or I don't know, shoot for the stars, like really go for it. And reach out to those people, because even if you never get in contact with that person, because it's highly unlikely, unless, for whatever reason you can get through to them. But at least you're killing that fear. And then from there, it just comes.
I think there's two things to keep in mind. The one is, like, it's like to reach for people whose work you admire. And I think going back to what I was saying earlier, it's to also look for the people around you and try and see stuff within them and then bring that out of them. So like there's people on my podcast who, like, I've interviewed who are like total masters, and there's people who in my podcast who are like more experienced than me, but like they aren't like conference speakers yet. So it's being able to be like, actually, this person has a huge amount of value to offer, and I'm going to invite them on because I see something within them. So it's like, it's looking for people who you like, because you don't want to become a social climber. You don't want to just have people on to just like get them on for your sake. You want to uplift people and find people who it will help them and you to be on your podcast, but also get people who it's just going to be helping you to have them on your podcast. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. I think there was a thing that I watched on Gary Vee. Now, I don't watch all of Gary Vee's stuff because he can be a bit controversial at times, but there was one thing he said which was quite true, and that's that, he's been going for so long now. He's obviously, he kind of forgot that back in the day, he was doing those interviews and those podcasts where only like 100 people were seeing it, or 200 or 300 people. Now he's got hundreds of thousands of people that are watching his stuff. And he said, for those people that are seeing that level of success, just remember it started with an interview that only got 100 views or 50 views or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And it's also that slog. Like, there's a friend of mine, Dylan Parfit. I used to live with him at House D as well. And he used to speak to me about Yeah, he's speaking about the gift of slogging, and that
Yeah.
was really relevant to him when he was at university. And it's like sometimes it's about slogging, and like the thing is we're not doing this for likes. And I think if you are
Mm.
doing it for likes, you're not going to last,
Yeah.
because I think you
Social
got to
capital
chip it.
won't last.
Yeah, you got to chip away at something, and maybe in a year's time, maybe two, maybe five, you'll start to get some kind of following. But then it won't even matter because you're not doing it for the following. You're doing it
Yeah.
for you. So like find a reason why you're going to do something that's authentic to you, and then do that. Like
Mm.
um, don't do it for some reason that will satisfy likes or that kind of thing. It's not long lasting.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit before we clock off on this thing because I see we're getting close. I don't want to keep you too long. So let's just talk
Mm,
quickly about the other barrier, and that's equipment. Because I know people are going to be like, I can't do this because I don't have a mic. Please, can you
yeah.
just tell the audience how you used to record your first stuff?
Yeah, so I
'Cause
think
I know.
it's important to just start. For the first season of my podcast, which was like 8 interviews or 9 interviews, something like that, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Um, I I used my phone. So I would record the interview in the voice memos app. So I would go to the person, open up voice memos, and then I would edit it on GarageBand. Now, GarageBand is a free app that comes with every Apple device. So you
Yeah.
can edit it on GarageBand. And then I would upload it with a free tool called Anchor. And Anchor is a
Mm.
free podcasting app where you're able
Yeah.
to distribute to every single podcast platform from there. And so everything, it cost me nothing. I already had my phone, and I just used the free voice recording app, and I used the free GarageBand app. To be honest, my setup hasn't changed that dramatically. These days, I'm recording it on my laptop, editing it in Logic Pro, but I've always owned Logic Pro, so it's like I'm just
Yeah.
it's the point that I'm making is that it doesn't have to be super hectic. You can use your
Yeah.
phone, and you could do many, 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 many recordings. The mics inside of phones are incredible now. Like you don't
Yeah.
need something that's very fancy to be able to create something that's high quality at all.
Mm.
And then you can even then just shove it into something like a garage band and just clean it up and normalize it and compress it and that kind of thing. So it's not
Yeah.
rocket science. Yeah.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I'm using GarageBand and I'm also using Anchor, which was your suggestion, which was a
Yeah.
huge savior. But I know you did the same trick. So obviously tonight I'm using these, but I used to use this bad boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
No.
what people won't don't realize, you put a blanket over your head and you hold this thing close. And you hold
Yeah.
this thing close to your not too close, but you hold it close to your mouth. And this thing
Yeah.
is, I
Unreal.
go try it. Those of you that are watching, go try it tonight. It seems stupid. Take your headphones with this thingy, put a
Mm.
towel or a blanket over your head, and just blurt out a sentence, and then record that
Yeah.
same sentence without it, and that you get that nice, deep, rich,
Yeah.
muffled sound.
Yeah.
It's
So like
incredible. I was
yeah.
blown away. No,
Yeah.
I
I
was
think
blown
that the
away when
thing
I did it the first time.
all modern smartphones, if you like are above a certain level, are
Mm,
going to I think I'm going to say like 6 grand at least. I don't know. You can get a Google Pixel for like 6.5, so that's an amazing phone. So you don't have to spend a whole lot on a smartphone. Uh,
mm,
so yeah, like any modern smartphone has a really nice mic in them. And I
yeah.
think the with this thing, the most difficult thing is actually starting and the actual
Mm,
ability of being able to communicate. And that's really the thing.
yeah.
The we're living in the golden age, the renaissance of technology, the
Mm,
greatest period in human history to teach yourself things and to
yeah.
equip yourself to do whatever you want. We're so lucky. Uh,
Yeah.
so like if you want to do it, the technology is not the problem. It's going to
Mm-mm.
be the thing of like learning and working that muscle yourself, because that's the tricky part, not
Yeah.
the tech. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching a video. I think it was uh, Peter McKinnon. I think it was one of his videos along with someone else where they were saying like every person these days like 90% of the people that you meet have an iPhone or a Samsung or something in their pockets, and they don't realize they have a camera and a phone or a piece of tech with a mic that's
Mm.
more sophisticated than when they first started their wedding photography 20 years ago.
Yeah, no,
And back then
100%.
they thought that was a barrier to entry. Now it's like you have the thing. I mean, you have it in front of you. I've got it in front of me right now.
No, and also there's like I think there's also this perception that the software is expensive. Like I love the Apple ecosystem, so I'm in there. But like
Mm,
you get for free with any Apple device, you get like something like iMovie. iMovie is a wonderful
mm,
video editing program, and you can do incredible things just with that program. And then there's, as I
yeah.
mentioned, GarageBand. Like that is like you can
Mm,
make a full album. I think the Black Eyed Peas
mm,
made one of their albums in GarageBand. Like there's go onto YouTube and type in GarageBand, and you'll find the most incredible tutorials. And so, like,
yeah.
the tools are freely accessible nowadays, and yeah. So it's just about actually motivating yourself to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan, before we wrap this up, I always ask people, you've already mentioned one book, but what are you
Hmm.
currently reading that you would say is a must for people to read? It doesn't even have to be related to what we're talking about.
That's fine. I'm reading a book called The Second Mountain by David Brooks. Let me open up the books app. Hang on. I think it's David Brooks. David Brooks, that's it. The Second Mountain by David Brooks. And basically, it's an incredible book. It's about the different requirements for purpose in life. Okay, so a lot of the mindset that's going around that's quite popular these days is the more removed you are, the less committed you are, the more happy you're going to be. So if you're able to leave your job, if you're able to um, like shift careers very quickly, if you're going to like you don't want to get married because then you're tied down. You want basically as many options as possible, and that's a lot of the mindset that goes around, and it's really not helpful and it's not true. And what
Mm,
this book does is that it goes through systematically all these main areas within life. So it'll go through like why it's important to have a community, why it's
mm,
important to have a guiding philosophy for your life, why it's important to have deeply embedded relationships, not ones that you can just sort of disappear from and you can use
yeah.
people or even ones that you don't like. You're not there's not deep commitment. It's like
Mm,
if I had to explain um, the main message of this book, it's called The Quest for a Moral Life, and it's going to the thing of like
mm,
actually like the value, like meaning in life is found through responsibility and commitment and being deeply embedded in the work that
oop,
you're doing, in the relationships in your life, and all those things. It's not about being able to just like disappear and flit between thing and thing. That's not freedom. Freedom is through being committed. So, The Second Mountain by David Brooks, incredible book. And I'm going to throw one other UX book in there because I would be off
go
brand if
for
I
it.
didn't. But I'm reading a book called Delta CX by Debbie Levitt. Oh my goodness. This book is crazy. It's called The Truth About How Valuing Customer Experience Can Transform Your Business. This is a thick book. Man, it's amazing.
Mm,
I'm a I'm like 6% in, so I've just begun. But we're actually going to be interviewing Debbie Levitt on the UX Joburg meetup in November.
oh,
So
nice, nice.
I she self-published this book. She's been in the UX industry for like 20 years. So she's also not one of these flash in the pans. She's been going for a long time. She'll be going a lot longer. And she's like consulted at like in companies working in Silicon Valley and wherever else you want. And this book is amazing. So if you're looking for a really high quality book on design and user experience design thinking, Delta CX, flipping amazing.
Well,
Thanks,
there we
Xander.
go. So, guys, if you guys are looking for, if you guys were wanting a new book to read, there we go. There's two new ones that you can go and try out.
Hmm.
Maybe, who knows, take a dip in the UX space. Who knows what might happen.
Yeah, Brendan, it's been such a privilege to be on the show with you, and like I really love what you're doing here. I think that it's so
Thanks,
like
Jonathan.
it's really cool that you're like making this platform and you're speaking to people and you're sharing your knowledge and like creating a really like I think I love what you're doing with the live shows and all that kind of thing. You're a great guy. I really love being your friend. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks, dude. Dude, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much. And have a wonderful evening. I hope Bianca's baking you bread or something is happening.
Man, she's made a really good supper, so I'm gonna go and have that.
I'm also heading for dinner now. So
yeah, exactly. Awesome.
Dude,
Enjoy
thank you
your dinner. Cool. Big love, my bro. Cheers, man.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you learned something from this episode and would like to hear more episodes in the future, please subscribe and consider leaving a comment so that other people can find this content. If you have any questions and would like me to answer them on an upcoming episode, go into the show notes where you can find a link to my Twitter page where you can ask me any questions that you have, or even leave a voice note using the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to keep the user right where they should be, first.